And good morning, everyone, and welcome to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. I have a very special guest in the studio today. My name is, of course, Alexi Boyd. Thank you for joining me. We're talking about bookkeeping today. Now, my regular listeners will know I'm passionate. I love bookkeeping. It's exciting. It's fun. I love drowning in receipts. I love dealing with clients whose lives are higgledy-piggledy. But not all businesses are like that. Not many businesses like doing that at all. And people like Kate Kemp, who is sitting opposite from me, and myself, we love it. We're excited about it. We love solving those problems for our clients, and we're going to share some of those strategies and tips with you today, which is pretty exciting. So Kate is from Small Business Financial Ops, which is a local business here in Hornsby that helps support businesses, not just in Hornsby. In fact, I think you're nationwide. Are you international?
No, I specialise in Australian businesses because, too hard basket there.
I think the Australian tax law and that sort of thing is complex
quite enough.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Exactly. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks.
I've been excited about having Kate on the show. In fact, I did some social media spruiking last night, and quite a popular person you are out there, quite an expert in your field.
Shucks.
So well done. It's lovely to see our local businesses succeed like that, and that's what we're here about on Small Biz Matters, which is getting you to spruik yourselves and talk about how fabulous your expertise is and what you can share with our listeners. So take me a little bit about what's been your journey? What is it that led you into, running a small business, but also the world of bookkeeping?
Well, look, like some of us, I accidentally had a baby.
That'll do it.
Yeah. And I sort of, while I was on my way to a financial planning career, had this minor setback and decided that while I was running the practice that I was working in, I would continue doing the bookkeeping at home with the baby. And everybody.
How did that go, by the way?
Yeah, everybody who's had a baby can now facepalm because that's about as well as it went. However, that did sort of continue on well past my maternity leave expiry, and 5 or 6 years later I realised I had a bookkeeping business and probably should do something with it. At that point, I think cloud accounting and cloud computing was just sort of poking its head into mainstream operations. And all of a sudden, I'd been to a seminar one day, heard about Shoeboxed Australia, Xero, QBO, all of these amazing platforms, decided I'd totally missed the boat. And if I didn't move my entire practice onto cloud accounting that June, I would, be history. As it happens, I hadn't missed the boat. I was probably on one of the first canoes, and I've sort of continued to grow at the front edge of that software development and process development for the last, 4, 5, 6, 7 years really now.
And it is a bit of a standalone process when you consider the complexity. It's almost it's simple in its complexity. The idea is that you don't have for those of you who aren't aware of how cloud accounting works, you obviously don't have your systems and processes and books sitting on your desktop or sitting on your tower computer. It actually lives online, so you are logging it in any stage. You can be anywhere in the world and be doing your bookkeeping. Why would you want to do that on a holiday? But some people do, and that's the beauty of it. And then the complexity, I guess, is that there are now so many integrated programs. There are specialist programs for particular industries. There's programs like Shoeboxed and Receipt Bank that help with all industries and just help you solve that problem of your receipts. And it's about that integration process. And that's why the people such as yourselves who are at the forefront and really, as you said, you were at the beginning of the process, have developed that understanding of the integration and the cloud-based process altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, there's so much hype out there now about cloud accounting, cloud software. And there's this hype and this sales pitch, and there's the, implement our software and it will do it all for you and you'll never have to do it again. And that's just so not true. And all of these softwares, all of these tools, they're tools. They're not truth. And for the listeners who don't know what Receipt Bank and Shoeboxed are, just a little anecdote. I'd sort of gotten my whole practice onto cloud accounting, and at that time it was Xero and Sasu. And I was sitting at my desk with all my clients' files thinking, hey, I'm a cloud-based business. I've got cloud accounting. But in reality, I was still tied to my desk. I still had these piles and piles of paperwork. I still had to do filing, scanning and shredding. And then sort of the penny slowly tinkled down and dropped. And I thought, hang on a minute, something wrong here. I've got my business on Xero. But I'm not cloud.
Yeah. So I guess another way of thinking about that whole cloud process is, of course, not just being your books in the cloud, your accounts in the cloud, but actually all that paperwork and those receipts and those bank statements and everything else.
That entire process
the
can
record
be handled completely outside of your desktop environment. And by doing that, what you do is you get rid of that massive time and administration sink that is paper, and people don't really articulate how expensive it is to handle paper. By definition, if you have to touch a piece of paper, you have to be in the same room as that piece of paper.
Wow.
Which means you're tied then to a location. Now, if you can manage to, step by step, free up your processes into a cloud-based platform, and you don't have to be in that location, you don't have to be in the same room as that piece of paper that you need to manage in some way, then all of a sudden you've got choices. You've got choices around location, resources. You can use people, like some of my BAS agents are living in the regional Northern Territory at the moment. You have the advantage of being able to actually deal with an issue that's come up from your phone on a bus. And that's happened to me, several times. So there's so many advantages to really looking at your process end to end to make sure that you don't have those bits of paper that are tying you to an old-fashioned administrative paper-based process.
I really like that idea, is that people think that, again, they've got those accounts in the cloud, but it's paper equals time. And what you've said there really resonates, which is you having to be in the same room as that piece of paper restricts you quite a lot in terms of your business and your time. It's crazy. People don't think of that. Whereas, so if we talk about the process itself, we all know that when you have a bit of paper and you have to enter it in your software, and then you have to pay it off, and then you have to reconcile it, and then you have to make it part of your chart of accounts and put it to a particular account code. And then you have to pick up a piece of paper and file it, or take a photo of it, or shred it, or whatever.
And then someone audits you, or you need a warranty claim, or for some reason you need to go and retrieve that piece of paper, which you hope hasn't faded and or been filed in a safe place.
And let's talk about that fading thing. So I think it's getting worse. So I think you can probably look at about, 2 weeks before those heat sensitive, and particularly forget about putting
receipts these days.
Receipts these days, honestly. So I think it's crazy, like you said, to take it through that entire process of making that purchase all the way through to the potential audit. And let's not kid ourselves.
It's not if, it's when.
Yeah, I work off the basis that every client will be audited in the next 5 years. It's just a matter of, wouldn't it be nice to just say to the ATO when they call, sure, do you want to jump in now? Do you want to just jump into my software? Because everything's there, and I'm happy for you to poke your way through it, anything you like. And
now,
that's
what you've
the beauty.
Just said will freak some people out, so I'm going to clarify that the ATO have no right to access your accounting files or your online paper files unless you very explicitly go and give them access.
So don't give them access, is that what you're saying?
Well, no, there is a thing. It's a thing. It's called a self-service audit.
Oh.
So that's instead of you wasting your time in an audit, and let me tell you that an audit is a time sink of epic proportion. You can go, here you go, Mr. Auditor. If you would like to do a full doc audit, here are my logins, if you choose. Or if you worked with myself, or I'm sure if you worked with Alexi, you would go, I've got an audit here. Can you do that, please? Thanks. And that would, obviously, I think that's a better outcome for everybody.
Yeah, it's a time factor thing, isn't it? And if everything's in order, then it'll save you time, it'll save you money, and you'd have to not worry about it as well, I think.
Yeah, and that time's a funny thing, because a lot of people say to me, oh, look, it only takes me 5 minutes to do that. And I guarantee it doesn't if you really think about it, or if you do a bit of a time and motion study on yourself. It does not take 5 minutes just to do that, because there's a whole lot of processes in even if it's just paying someone on internet banking, if it's filing a document. If you add up that really conscious process over time, and then you think, well, if I wasn't spending that time, let's call it an hour a week, 2 hours a week, even 30 minutes a week, if I used that time to generate revenue in my business, would I be better off? And nearly every time the answer is, well, yeah, duh.
Yeah, of course. It's that exercise that you do to work out how much it costs you to run your business per hour, and then can I outsource this? Can I be generating income, and the income that I could generate from this time I'm spending now is going to be incredibly much higher than what it will cost me to get someone else to do it.
Absolutely. And I really encourage all of our listeners to do that calculation. And if you don't know how, please reach out. And maybe we can throw some stuff up on the website on how to do this. Is, how much does it actually cost me to run my business, and how much should I pay myself? It's an amazingly good question. And there are very, very, very simple answers to that question. We can put a 5-minute spreadsheet up on the website so that you can work it out.
And
for
it's
yourself.
Empowering to know that information. The only client I ever approached as a new client who had done this was a plumber, and I said, "How much does it cost you to run your business per hour?" He went, $62.44. I went, "Okay, you've done this exercise."
Good to know.
Yeah. That's handy for you to know, isn't it?
That's applaudable. That's amazing, and we all should do that as business owners.
And he didn't have a business coach; he did that off his own bat, which is pretty impressive. So let's talk about discussion in relation to disruptive technologies. So bookkeeping, obviously, completely thrown up in the air with the cloud-based accounting, things like Receipt Bank, Shoebox. Are you one of those bookkeepers that panics and goes, "Oh my God, I'm going to lose my business," and to these processes that are online? Or do you turn around and say, "I'm going to become the expert at this and be a management consultant"? It's something that faces all industries. So how did you approach that?
Look, it never really came across my bow, to be honest. As I said, I sort of was already in there
Forefront.
up to my eyeballs.
Yeah.
And
you saw it coming. Well, you didn't see it coming, but you were luckily at the beginning of it.
It was interesting, but that's never come across my bow. But I have heard the sentiment from a lot of our peers in industry, and I do a lot of work with our profession. And look, every industry faces this at some point, and I just believe that bookkeeping in its traditional sense, it's gone. And that's okay, because now there is a different professional standing that we take. We're advisors, okay? We're telling you that you shouldn't integrate that bit of software, because even though it does, it doesn't mean it should.
Mm-hmm. And it's a tool, not a...
Not tools, not truth. Yeah,
yes,
all of these,
tools, not truth.
Bank feeds are my perfect example. Bank feeds in any of the online platforms, they're tools, they're not truth. They are not the representation of your bank's statement of accounts. They're a feed, and you need to check. You need to check that those feeds are accurate, because they do go wrong from time to time, like any piece of software. But back to your point, look, the bookkeeping profession, it's changed. It's just not what it was. There are some people who will change slower than others, and that's okay too. There are some businesses who will change slower than others, also okay. And what you'll find is that I tend to work with businesses who absolutely value their time. They want to step into revenue space. They don't want to have the time sink and the cost sink of paper-based administration. So I work really well with those bookkeepers. And there's a whole lot of different in-between spaces where there are different professionals that suit different businesses.
But you need to be aware of that as well in your own industry if that's what's coming.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's only a matter of time, like you said before. Disruption does happen at every level, and you just need to be at the forefront of that. And professional associations are very important, play an important role in this, because they should be the ones educating you on what's coming, what to be aware of, what to read up on, research.
Absolutely. And look, if you're a professional business, if most businesses would have a professional association somewhere along the line, and you're paying a membership and you're not getting any value out of that, go and look for the value, because quite often it's there. And if you've gone to look for the value in your professional association and it's not there, well, push them a bit harder and ask them why you're paying fees. I know with the bookkeeping profession, there are several excellent associations, and they do drive the education around our profession, what's coming, what's changing. Single touch payroll is the next big change in our ATO legislation. They do a lot of the education around the new GST rulings that come out. SuperStream was the last big thing that happened.
It happened several times, didn't it? Just kept on happening.
And is still happening. And if any of these words, as a business owner, SuperStream, single touch payroll, if these aren't resonating with you, you need to get educated. You need to know what these are about. And your associations and or your bookkeeper or your finance team should be having these across your desk, and you need to pay attention to those.
That's absolutely right. And that comes back to what you were saying before about us becoming advisors, because we are integrated across all these options when it comes to the bookkeeping and the accounts world, and all the changes to legislation, which are just constant, and people should use us as a resource as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really important that you know if you've got a great bookkeeper that you're working, or if you've got an okay bookkeeper that you're working with, it's really important that you know what they're doing and that you're going to them for the advice and the support, and that you're getting value when you do go to them. You're getting a response.
Let's talk about that process with engaging with a good bookkeeper. My first thing is always encouraging people to look for someone who is also a BAS agent. That's really important, isn't it?
Oh, it's essential. In fact, there's, technically speaking, there is no bookkeeping that can happen anymore that isn't considered to be a BAS service. And I know there'll be some people who arc up about that and, oh yes, but I'm, my bookkeeper works under the instruction of my accountant. And, okay, if that's what you choose to go down the road under. However, the most important reason to engage with a BAS agent who is registered is because if they're registered, they're insured. And only last month I had a situation where an employer was mismanaged by an unregistered bookkeeper, and that's cost them a bucket load of money, which, and you know what? Mistakes happen in profession, and that's okay. Sometimes any professional will make a mistake, and they can make a mistake through their teams, their processes. There's 100 reasons, and it can be financially damaging to your business. However, a registered and insured professional has the backup of insurance, professional indemnity, which indemnifies the business then of those financial damages. And in this case that I was just referring to, there is no civil recourse. There's no recourse at all for this client. They are coughing up in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Ouch.
Because of mismanagement by a professional.
And when somebody obviously comes to someone and starts that process off with engaging with them, is it more often a clean-up situation, or could it be a new business starting up? When's the best time to engage with a bookkeeper, in your opinion?
Look, that's a loaded question because every business and every business owner is completely different. So I work with some business owners who are really excellent at managing their own accounts, and they work with my business just to review and lodge. So they get extra time to lodge and pay their BAS.
There's another reason why you'd go with a BAS agent as well.
Also, yes, it's extra time to lodge and pay your BAS, an extra 6 weeks. Improve your cash flow off the bat right there.
Yeah, easy fix.
Yes, but I've worked with businesses who are excellent at managing their own stuff, and they just have a professional view and a professional BAS lodgement. And so while they engage with a bookkeeper, they engage in a very different way to perhaps an established business who need to leverage their business resources so that their financial operations are completely outsourced, and what they do in their business is drive revenue. Their team drive revenue. They don't pay Sally to file documents. In some cases, Sally stopped filing documents and started playing Facebook, which again drives revenue, and it's funner, let's face it. So when you engage with a bookkeeper is really personal, but if you're not 100% sure of anything that you're doing, at least have a review. At least you can probably get one for free to look at what you're doing. And sometimes people say, oh, my accountant didn't say anything. My accountant, says it's all fine. And I'd just like to point out that accountants aren't bookkeepers, and accountants do tax. Now, personally, I would rather stick needles in my eyes than look at tax. But process, coal-facing, collecting money the right way.
Making sure the GST is correct on all of your purchases.
Accounting for GST correctly. Making sure you're not doing any data entry. So if you're doing any data entry, if you're manually uploading documents to your filing system or to Xero or to QBO, engage with a bookkeeper on a review basis, just so that you know what's what.
And what's available out there as well, what processes you can implement to improve things. You may not be ready to do that, but 6 months, 12 months down the track when you explode with income because you know it's coming, because all successful businesses do, then that's a time when you want to get things set up and ready to go.
Absolutely. So look, it's really worth having a review, probably worth having a paid review so that you've got somebody's dedicated attention and you're not just getting into a marketing funnel. And that way you know. And the other thing I'd say, if you pay any person, an individual with an ABN or an individual employee, if you're paying any person, not a company, but a person directly for their labours, get a bookkeeper now. Because there is a raft of complexity and two different lots of legislation, so state-based legislation, federal-based legislation, and massive risk to your business when you pay individuals for their labour.
And I don't think I know of a single business out there that doesn't pay individuals for their labour in some way, shape or form.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got to be aware of how to do that correctly. Listen, we're going to take a quick break here on Small Biz Matters. You're listening to Triple H 100.1. We'll be back after this with more from Kate. So, Kate, today we are talking all about bookkeeping, yours and my favourite subject. Let's get into the nitty-gritty now. Let's talk about some really good strategies and tips that our listeners can do to improve their accounts, get them cleaned up, get them sorted out. What's your top tips today?
Okay, well, I do realise that most of you would also rather stick needles in your eyes and sit down to a good accounts session. So here's some quick tips to make sure that you're spending less time, more effective time and more efficient time when you do sit down, perhaps with a glass of wine of an evening. So, quick tips. Use your accounts at My Business email. So if you don't have an accounts email, set one up right now. And make sure that every single piece of accounts type correspondence goes to your accounts email. There's a few reasons for this. Firstly, we can set up lots of amazing email automation that'll pick up all your account stuff and toss it into places that is handy. We'll get into that in a minute. But it also makes a psychological difference so that when you do sit down to check that email, you can do it regularly at a scheduled time, and you can almost change the hat that you're wearing for that hour that you spend in your accounts email so that that's your focus time, and then it doesn't impact on the rest of your operations. It's focusing your time. And do you know what? If you're not particularly great at having money conversations, so employ Sally. Now, Sally can be completely fictitious. She's just the email signature in your accounts email.
Genius.
And so when you're having to send chase-up emails or when you're replying to emails on behalf of customers or suppliers, you're just Sally. Now, Sally can have an autoresponder and to tell everybody that she's only in the office on Wednesdays between 12 and 2. That's perfectly fine. And that way you're really, really taking that accounts part of your business and putting it into its own dedicated role. And it's really important, especially if we're looking at business value, business sale, business development, that you create roles in your business that stand alone. And you can replace the person or the tools that you use to fulfill that role, but that role is consistent in your business.
I love it. That's genius.
It is great. And
I might get myself
Sally
a Sally.
The accounts bitch. Like, she is awesome. She is on it. She's a dog with a bone. She suits your business, but she's not you. So she's not you having relationship conversations with your clients. She's your accounts team having accounts conversations with your clients. Do you know what I
like about that as well is because if it's a standalone email list, it's not infiltrating your inbox from a psychological point of view, but also when you're doing your account stuff, how many times would you sit there and do your account stuff and then flick over to a different, I just quickly got to answer that email about something completely different. And you're switching your brain on and off from accounts instead of just specifically spending that 2 hours on it.
There is. And look, there's a fabulous book by David Rock. It's called Your Brain at Work. And the lowdown on this book is that your brain can actually only do one thing at one time effectively. So if you make an effort to focus your time, you will perform better in your business and in your life for that matter. So my next tip is that less is more in your account. So if you've got 50 bank accounts, and people do, I promise you only need 2 bank accounts and a credit card, if that. All right? One bank account is your trading bank account. One is your provision bank account. So that's where you shove money that you need for superannuation or for GST or for tax. And or working capital for that. And then your credit card, if you like credit cards or you need credit, then there's where you use your points or, you have that credit card facility. Most people now have debit cards attached to their business account. So if you don't need credit, credit has its place. Debt has a strategic role in business, but it's certainly not an everyday role if you can avoid it.
It's not the same as having a credit card for your personal use, is it?
No.
No. And I think businesses forget. I think a lot of bankers are still setting up businesses and going, right, you need this, and you need a credit card. And that's not great because it's not something you absolutely need. Nowadays, we do have those debit accounts that are attached to check accounts.
And some of us are a little bit addicted to the points programs. And you know what? Yeah, I'm a little bit of a frequent flyer myself.
Can I tell you about the points programs? I spent 12 years putting every possible conceivable purchase onto my Westpac credit card. 12 years. And I worked out the 12 years was $100 a year, so it was $1,200 I paid for that credit card. Then when I went to go and pick up the points and buy something, guess how much it was worth? $1,200. So thankfully I've got some good account, cash flow, productivity, all those things in my brain. So I always paid off my credit card balance in full, which you should do. But I was just giggling because I went, that's exactly how much I've spent on this credit card over the next 12 years. So point to note, there is a place for it, and people are just too quick to think of it as we do in our personal lives, and it's not. It's got a different role.
Look, psychologically as well, if you don't have access to credit, you'll manage your money and your cash flow better, because you will know that at some point you won't be able to pay people what they need. I know, moral ditch here, right? This is the moral ditches, the moral swamps, not the moral high ground. But I promise you that if you can go without day-to-day credit in your business, there is a strategic role of debt in business. It's not disputed. But if you can go without day-to-day credit, you'll manage your cash flow better. So, tools, not truth. Coming back to my little quote. Your software, your Xero, your bank feeds, your QBO, your MYOB, they are tools, and they're there to help you create financial accounts. If you don't know what your financial accounts are, then you've got tools to help you with the how, but not the what. So it's important that you go, if you're doing it yourself, go and get some education. If you have a professional bookkeeper or BAS agent doing this for you, you must delegate, not abdicate. You have to know what your service providers are providing for you. So while you've got Xero, you might have a great bookkeeper. Both these things are tools for your business, and you need to be aware, be educated. If you've got a bookkeeper, sit down and say, hey, you know what? Do we have a documented accounts process? Do we have checklists that we can use? If you have to leave the country tomorrow to deal with a sick parent and I never hear from you again, or you fall under a bus, but it's a little
where do my accounts stand?
What happens? Who pays the payroll on Wednesday if you go to hospital on Tuesday? So be really, really aware that the tools you use in your business and the people that you have in your business, they're not fail-safe. You must have an understanding. You must have contingency plans.
And you must understand what's actually going on in the bigger picture when it comes to what that particular consultant is doing. You don't just hand over your entire marketing plan to someone and say, right, do a marketing plan for me for the next 3 years, and then don't talk to them. Of course not. They've got to be intrinsically linked to with what you're planning to do with your business, and then they come back and they do back and forth and they explain to you what's going on. They give you some statistics about where they're up to. The same should be said about your bookkeeper. They should be letting you know where you stand, where are we up to, how much do you owe, where are you with the ATO debt and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if you have a relationship with your bookkeeper, which means that they provide you with a report on this day and a BAS on that day and a BAS assessment on, the day prior, then that's what it is, as long as you know what it is. So like any good tool or service, you need to have documentation to support it, to tell you how to use it, to tell you how to fix it if it's broken.
And just because you're in the cloud doesn't mean that you don't have good record keeping.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, you've probably got better record keeping because, you know what?
Accessible.
An office can burn down and there are all your files that have gone with it.
Let's also just talk about that as well, because I was just talking to an IT professional about this last week with the ransomware virus that is infiltrating hundreds of thousands of computers worldwide. Those of you out there who haven't updated your software, do so. The other thing to do, it's really important, is make sure that even if you are in the cloud and you're in Dropbox, you've got a backup somewhere that is not connected to the internet. So it's a standalone. In fact, a lot of IT people are saying do two of them. You have a standalone terabyte drive or whatever it is, you plug it in and you do it twice, because with these terabyte drives, they don't have a screen on them, so you can't tell whether or not they're broken. So do two and then unplug it, make sure it's not connected to Wi-Fi or anything like that, and then put maybe in two different locations. So like you said, if the house burns down, your backup's not completely gone, one at your office, one at home. And that's really important to do as well, because a lot of people assume because they're in the cloud that they're completely infallible to any sort of ransomware.
No, they're not. But there are also professional cloud-based backup services that you can engage at very little cost.
Can you give me an example of one?
No, mine's gone blank.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Mind blank. If you Google up backup my Xero, for example, online cloud. Oh, my goodness. My mind's completely blank. Okay,
come back to it.
Google it up. There are lots of them. So you can back up in the cloud, and these are services that take your cloud data whatever type of data it is, and then they back it up for you on different geographical locations. If you want to have terabyte drive and download all your stuff once a month, or you go nuts. It's not so easy to do with the cloud platforms.
Oh, yes, of course, because, I'm thinking more along the lines of your Dropbox files or anything that's actually a file-based system.
Look, I tend to take a bit of a pragmatic approach to that. My business and your business ought also be insured for cybersecurity and cyber safety. I figure that if we've lost Dropbox for some reason, or Xero, there's probably a few larger problems going on in the world that we may need to pay attention to. Because
Dropbox
these are massive organisations and they're incredibly reliant on goodwill, and I feel that they're there. They do everything they possibly could to restore in as quick a time as possible.
That's right.
So, tools not truth. Make sure you have documentation around the tools that you use, so that you don't have a key person risk in your business, or key software risk, or any one thing that falls over that means everything else breaks. Okay. So, data entry, filing, and paper-based administration. Don't do that stuff.
I'm falling asleep.
It's all right. Wake up. There's come on, Alexi. Look, in terms of the number one quick wins that you can make in your business right now, that will save you time, that will save you money, that will increase your compliance with legislation, that will increase your discipline around accounts. Getting off the paper-based administration is the quickest win. So there is my practice uses a software called Squirrel Street. It used to be called Shoeboxed Australia. And we use Squirrel Street because it is Australian-based. All the processing is in Crow's Nest in Sydney, and they employ the long-term unemployed, and they also use disability services to do a lot of their grunt work. And I really, where I can engage with my community like that, with my country like that, I like to. I've got nothing against offshoring, outsourcing at all, but I choose Squirrel Street because I choose Australia in this case. There are also Receipt Bank is a UK-based software company that does something similar, and what they do is they take all of your documents. I don't know if Receipt Bank take all. They do. You
can take anything. You can put anything and archive it in there. Yeah.
From your business, and it's stored online. And when it's an expense, so a receipt or an invoice, it extracts the data. So it extracts the name, the date, the amount, the GST, and the payment method. And you can choose to use those softwares as a standalone accounting method. If you're a very small sole trader, you've got your invoice software, and you have Squirrel Street that does all of your data extraction on your expenses. That's all you need. If you're a larger business, that software, so let's say it's Squirrel Street, that will integrate with your accounting platform, let's say QuickBooks Online or Xero, so that you've now had your expenses, you maybe stuffed them in an envelope. I've actually got my Squirrel Street envelope right here with me in the studio.
Practical.
I'm about to drop it in the post box. So I like to stuff all my stuff in an envelope because I'm just far too lazy to take photos of it, frankly. I think it's a time sink and a waste of my time. But you can, if you're on the go or at your pub and you know that receipt's never getting home, you can take a photo of it with your mobile app. Or scan and upload if that's your choice. But once you have that paperwork in these softwares, they will extract the data and then they will plonk the data straight through to your general ledger. And you can automate that, so you can set it up so that you don't even touch it. It just happens. Officeworks receipt, for example, you take a photo of it, it goes to Squirrel Street, it's processed. Squirrel Street's already been set up to know that Officeworks goes to printing and stationery, and that automatically goes through to the accounting platform. No hands, Mum.
The other thing I like about them as well is that both the image both lives in Receipt Bank world, and it also lives in your accounting practice as well, like in Xero world, for instance. So you've got actually a double backup system there, which is really handy.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got redundancy across those platforms.
Like what you were saying earlier about not having full reliance on any one space.
Absolutely.
We might just take a quick break and listen to a quick community service announcement, and we're going to come back and talk more with Kate about bookkeeping tips and getting more efficient. But I do actually want to mention that after the break, we're going to have Rachel Chappell pop in from North Shore Mums. She's going to tell us all about a very exciting project that she's got coming up to raise money for the Cancer Council. Listen carefully. You're listening to Triple H 100.1 FM. And welcome back to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. We were just super efficient. We whizzed Rachel in here. Thanks for coming on the show, Rachel.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And Rachel is, of course, from North Shore Mums, the founder, the director, the starter-upper, it's a juggernaut. How many members are you up to now?
I think we're about 23,500 in our group.
That is frightening.
It is. There's
it's got to be one of
mums out there.
It's one of the largest in Australia, no doubt.
I don't know.
You'll be on
There's a lot
now. I'm above stats.
Exactly. There are a lot of mums.
Now, tell us about this fantastic project that you're doing, which is very impressive. You're telling me about it the other night at a networking function.
Yeah.
What is it?
So it's called
North Shore Dancing Northern Stars.
It's called Stars of the North.
Stars of the North.
Stars of the North Dance for Cancer. It's the second year that they've had it running. Last year it was at the Chatswood Concourse. So basically think Dancing with the Stars.
Regional.
But it's a regional version and it's a stage version. So similar concept. They kind of select 12 business people in the local community and you get paired with a professional dancer.
What's your professional dancer's pairing name?
His name is Chris Michaels.
Thanks, Chris.
And he is from Arthur Murray Dance Studio in Crow's Nest.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment I'm doing 2 classes a week with him up to the lead up with the events on the 24th of June. So I've got to cram in 16 lessons between now and the 24th of June.
You do that when you're running a business.
And
yeah.
I am dancing in front of around 400 people.
Is that all?
On stage.
You'll be fine. Have you bought your shoes?
It's a big gala event. There's, it's a 3-course meal at Norths in Camry. So it's a big event and I've got about 3 tables of friends and family who will be there.
So are there still tickets available for the actual event at Stars on the North?
Yeah, I believe there are.
And what's the date of that one?
It's Saturday the 24th of June.
That's blazoned into your brain, isn't it? That deadline.
I don't know what I'm going to do on the 25th of June. I'm going to wake up and be
Wine.
like, I don't need to dance anymore. Amazing. So, yeah, but it's a really, it's a fun event. It's throwing me out of my comfort zone in a big way. And it's for an amazing cause. The more I've been getting into this event, the more people I've been speaking to who have been touched quite directly by cancer. Like it is... we all know it's the biggest killer and, the Cancer Council does such amazing things, into, the support. So if you first find out that you're diagnosed with cancer, they're there to help you, point you in the right direction. A lot of education, like skin cancer, all that kind of things, breast cancer, all the cancers they deal with in education, support, prevention, research. So, it's an amazing charity and I'm very, proud to be able to raise money for them.
So not only can people buy tickets for the event, obviously, but they can sponsor you as well. How do they find out information about sponsoring you, Rachel Chappell, the sponsorship of the Rachel?
Exactly. Well, probably the first step is to go to the North Shore Mums website because we've got stuff on there. Tomorrow we're launching an online auction. So we've got lots of local businesses that have donated amazing prizes. So that's a really easy way to donate because you will be rewarded with whatever you want to. So whether it's a spa voucher, a decluttering voucher, restaurant vouchers. So that's launching tomorrow at 7 a.m.
A bookkeeping review. Woohoo!
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not going to be one of the exciting ones.
There'll be some small business owners that would love that, I'm sure. So that's launching tomorrow. We've got about 30 prizes up for grabs. It's running online for 2 weeks. So at the end of May, that's when it's all going to come to a head and, all proceeds from those prizes that have been donated are going towards my goal of raising $10,000 for the Cancer Council. I'm at about 2,500 and that's largely family and friends at the moment.
Yeah.
So
wait till that auction
will really
starts
help.
off.
Get closer to the 10,000.
So tell me, have you bought your shoes?
No.
I told you to buy the shoes the other night.
I know. I've got to get to Block and get those shoes. I do, at the moment I'm just dancing in my boots and, I need to be dancing in dance shoes, I think, because as my teacher tells me, it's very different dancing in trainers or, your everyday shoes to actually dancing in high heels. Like,
are you tangoing? Are you foxtrotting?
We're kind of foxtrotting.
You're foxtrotting?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun.
Are you foxtrotting in your sleep?
It's getting to that point now. It's becoming more embedded into my subconscious. So,
and before this, did you do any dancing?
I did actually. I did do ballet when I was a little girl. Yeah, I did ballet. So
you got the grounding.
I think is exactly. It kind of helps you with rhythm and even like a few little moves. Like you go do a ronde, and I'm like, oh, I remember what a ronde is, or he'll cut it short. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, look, you're fabulous as always, doing lots of things for lots of great causes, and this one is for the Cancer Council. So make sure you check out the North Shore Mums website tomorrow, because that's when
that's when all the prizes will be announced.
Yeah, 30 prizes up for grabs, and obviously 100%.
Bids are starting at just $30.
Oh, awesome.
And then
Very
obviously
accessible.
we're hoping to raise a lot more than that per prize, but get in early, and then you'll be able to follow the items as the bids go up.
And a quick plug for the North Shore Mums website as well. What's the North Shore Mums website?
Join our group if you're not already a member.
Do you need to have
Come on
kids?
over, but check out our website.
Well, you do.
We're
You need to have
constantly
kids.
updating with events and local services and stuff. So really, anything you need is there.
There's heaps. There's what's going on. There's calendar. There's some interesting articles that are written by your mums. There's interesting. I think you've got reviews on local businesses and restaurants and things like that.
Any tips on teenage boys?
We kind of are more in
wine.
in the younger and up to the primary school age at the moment. I haven't delved. Boys aren't really my thing. I've got 3 girls.
And they're all in primary school.
7 and under, so yeah.
So we're all just, North Shore Mums is just living its life according to how old Rachel's kids are.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Everyone's growing up as my children are getting older. But we're still, because, people come when they're having babies and toddlers, so that's kind of when people join, and then we're 5 in June. Next month is our 5th birthday.
Happy birthday.
5 years since North Shore Mums launched. So.
Wow. That's fantastic.
I know.
What, at this rate, you're going to have 20 million people by the time you're 10.
We'll need to work on the Australian population, I think.
Ah, yeah, easy.
Get Australian. To move to the North Shore.
Just call it Australian Mums on Facebook.
Exactly.
Take over the world.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, well, look, congratulations, and also congratulations on just being a wonderful, successful, local small business for our area in Hornsby, Ku-ring-gai. Great to have you on Triple H, so thanks so much for coming in. And look, feel free to join in our discussion. We were just talking about, you were saying you were listening a little bit earlier about the bookkeeping tips that are wonderful. Kate has been empowering us with, and one of the ones I took away just before the break was Sally. I love Sally. The idea of having this person who doesn't actually exist, who is your accounts person, and you just write in the voice of Sally when you're responding to any accounts. Yes,
Sally's a go-getter.
Yeah,
I like
she
her.
go gets the money.
She sounds friendly.
sometimes.
Most of the time.
But you can, of course, engage with different. There's a lot of. I don't like using offshoring, but there's a lot of options out there when it comes to debt recovery as well. If we talk about that particular aspect, there are some automated processes.
Absolutely. So Sally, or whoever you choose to name her. I think one of my clients has named her Barbara. No offence to any of the Barbaras out there.
I don't think I know any Barbaras.
I'm sure there are some, and they're lovely. Lost my train of thought. We're on debt recovery.
Yeah, tell me about,
Sally,
you were
or
mentioning
Barbara.
something before about an automated process that people can engage
Sure.
with.
Like the first stage of debt recovery is don't have debt. Just a tip. So you can avoid debt by looking at your credit terms. And unless you're in the business of investing in other businesses, please don't offer 60-day credit terms. You're not a bank. If you choose to offer credit terms, consider charging for those terms like you would do if you were a bank. Keep your terms short. Cash on delivery, direct debit. So being automatically paid at an anniversary date, say monthly, for works that you do. Even if those works are not a set fee, you can have a direct debit that's based on a threshold. So as long as my estimated service fees will be $400 to $500, as long as my debit falls within $400 to $500, it's automatically drawn 7 days after the invoice is issued, which means your client has 7 days to contact you with any dispute. So that's the first stage in debt recovery. The second stage is to don't let debts go. And be on it, and you can do this without actually, no hands, mum. So your accounting platform will probably have the ability to send automated reminders at set times. Don't let reminders go for 30 days. You can even remind people prior to their bills being due using automated reminders within your accounting software. So no integrating app, just your accounting software should be able to do that. If it doesn't, or if you're getting debts that are coming up to 30 days, I use an app called IODM. And it's an online app, and it integrates with your general ledger, and it will suck your invoices up into the application, and then it will send recovery letters effectively. So it'll send the first letter, which is nice and soft, then it'll send a second demand letter, and then a third. And at the time that third letter is issued, Slater Byrne, who has made a partnership with this particular application, will give you a call to discuss the options around that debt. Now, because these letters go out from Slater Byrne and not from you, nearly every single time somebody gets a letter from a solicitor and they pay you straight away.
And that's your experience.
Because like, oh dear, whoops, this person's serious. And look, a lot of your debt management also comes down to how you allow it to be. So if you are onto that from day dot and you teach your customers that you do not accept late payments, you will be a priority because people pay the people who argue loudest first. That's just life. So if you've actually had a business and you've let your debts sort of accumulate over time and you've been quite soft, you've avoided it for whatever reason, or you haven't had Sally to have that conversation with the client because it disrupts your relationship with the client, or you know what, you're one of the hundreds and hundreds of people who just don't like having money conversations. This kind of app means that you're not client facing. This is completely automated and it's powerful. So if you've let your debts build up over time, I would possibly start with a softer kind of re-education letter, change your terms. So issue a notification of change of terms. It's a nice segue into a new relationship that you have with your customers, and then you have to stick it. So if you put a calendar note in your diary every Monday at 9 a.m, you send out reminders or you send out your collections letters from IODM, the software, and you have to stick it. So you can't sort of change your relationship and then go back to the way it was.
It's like what you said, it's an education of your clients, isn't it? And it's about making sure that you've drawn a line in the sand. If you've been soft previously, you say from now on, this is how it's going to be.
And you teach people how to treat you.
It's the same with emails, isn't it? You don't respond to emails at 10 o'clock at night because then your clients will presume that you are working at 10 o'clock at night, which, sadly we all are. But you don't send those because then you're training them to think that they can access you at all hours.
And do you know what?
Ask a question?
Of course.
I'm a small business owner and I occasionally get some of the bigger companies advertise with me, will get me to sign a supplier form, I think it is, and their terms are 60 days payment, whereas my terms generally are 14 days payment, and I'm the small fry, so I'm like, okay, fine, I'm going to agree to, I feel like I have to sign that 60-day thing, but it's a ludicrous amount of time to be waiting for an invoice. Like,
it's a valid point that you raised. Now, when you're dealing with the land leases and similar of the world, they're corporate machines and they have those 60-day terms because that's how long it takes them to push that paperwork through their process, because they're monsters, they're dinosaurs.
That's because they're making money as well from sitting on the money that they don't owe people. That's 60 days they're making interest off it. That's what infuriates me as well.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I know how the internal workings there, and it goes to one person to be authorised, then to a second person, then through a processing chain. It is a massive process. The bigger and bigger and bigger the business is. However, it's highly unlikely that they don't pay you at 60 days.
Yeah, that's true.
So, look, all the tips and tricks in the world have to also be governed by commerciality. Now, tips on getting paid faster with big players like that is negotiate upfront payment terms, so payment before delivery. So, and then get your invoices in quick. Backdate them.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with backdating.
Invoice sooner. So, just while we're on this topic, when you're paying people, so not getting people to pay you, but when you're paying people, your suppliers, set your supplier terms as well. Have your suppliers sign a supplier agreement. This covers you off on a whole lot of things. As you get a bit of a legal review on it. Okay. And then make payments on the 15th of every month. So while that might not fall into a 7-day payment plan for your suppliers, if your suppliers know that they're getting paid on the 15th of every month, if they had their invoice into you by the end of the previous month, you'll be able to negotiate those terms. So it's about getting paid quicker and paying people not slower as in delaying, but not right away. Don't pick stuff up and pay it right away. Right. Fix your credit terms.
It also segues things nicely around to making sure that your account software is completely up to date. You've got all the information in there, and then you know
and
where you
it's appropriate
stand.
for your business.
Yeah.
Okay, because again, the hype, the sales pitch, there's no point having software if it's not appropriate and the best solution for your business.
Oh, you don't understand how it works either.
Or that.
Look, thank you so much for coming on the show, Kate. We could talk, I don't know, for another 3 hours or so about
At least.
bookkeeping tips and fabulous
Because
tricks.
it's so exciting.
So I have to... I'm excited.
I'm actually very interested. This is,
Yeah.
these tips we need.
Well, it's
Look,
everyday
because
stuff for
bookkeeping
businesses.
because bookkeeping isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
It's not that drudgery that we have in our minds that it is. It's actually painless. It can be really rewarding, and it's essential. So get into it.
Have fun with it.
Yeah.
Some fun,
So-
guys.
Toots.
Oh, look, well, thanks for coming on the show. We'll look forward to having you on again. We could do a regular slot with Kate, which would be awesome. And thanks for coming on the show, Rachel, and telling us all about Stars of the North. Good luck.
Thank you.
Buy your shoes. Don't fall over.
Yes. Get practicing in
Go
those
to block
shoes.
right now.
Well,
I'm
going to
walk you across.
at Hornsby Westfield, so I might